Let's watch the Steven Crowder Piers Morgan debate over Alex Jones and a bunch of other stuff, but mostly Alex Jones being allowed back on Twitter.
Welcome back to Uncensored. Last week I criticised Elon Musk's decision to allow the massacre-denying conspiracy theorist Alex Jones to return to X, formerly Twitter. Some people weren't happy. They included the influential conservative personality Steven Crowder. This is what he had to say on his show, Louder with Crowder, about me.
This brings us to Piers Morgan's
Oh my
rules
God.
for me.
Whoa, what is that? Is that a goatee now? He has a goatee. Crowder has a was that a temporary thing? Was that a... He has a goatee now? That must have been like a gimmick. Like a gimmick for the show. I know he puts on costumes. I know he did the racist Asian gimmick. I've seen him do all these sorts of costumes. I saw him dress up as like, you know, the Arab terrorist. So maybe this is a, I don't know, a goatee gimmick. I don't know what the gimmick would be, but that can't be real. Wait, is that not is that a handlebar and it's just a shadow on his chin makes it look like a goatee? I respect the handlebar more, but it does not look like a handlebar.
He hosted Alex Jones on his very own
No, that looks like a goatee.
program this year. Piers Morgan doesn't understand what freedom of speech is. Piers Morgan has also hosted Suhail Shaheen, the Taliban spokesperson. Jeez. Wahid Asif Shaita, an Islamist extremist leader. Jeremy Corbyn, the anti-Semitic Labor Party leader. Just Piers, stop it. I'm sorry. Fraud.
Jeremy Corbyn, Jeremy Corbyn isn't anti-Semitic. Jeremy Corbyn doesn't hate the Jews. That doesn't mean Jeremy Corbyn was not stringent enough when it comes to Jew hatred, when it comes to certain other people, but he does not hate the Jews.
Fraud. There we go.
Well, in the spirit of hosting very controversial people on my free speech platform, I'm now joined by Steven Crowder, who can call me a free speech hypocrite to my face. Mr. Crowder, good day to you. How are you?
Well, thank you, Piers. Merry Christmas. And let me say off the bat, I do actually appreciate about you. Your audience may not know how rare this is, that you do these interviews live, you don't chop them up, you actually have a discussion, and I've been advocating for that my whole life. So really, I appreciate it. Those are steps in the right direction.
The one thing I agree with, the goatee is gone, thank God. I guess that was like a post-divorce type of, you know, transformation. Steven looks drained. Gonna be blunt, he looks drained. Something about him looks off. Looks like he aged like 10 years since I last seen him. I don't know why. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying that's what I see. I'm honest. I'm sorry.
They are. And to be honest with you, the debate about what constitutes free speech and whether there should be limits,
maybe he's just tired,
should be what they are, I think is really interesting. And a lot of people have strong opinions about this. And I'm perfectly happy to be proven wrong, or to at least have a debate with someone who's got strong views that don't necessarily tally with mine. So I welcome you to the programme. Let's start with your assessment that I'm a free speech hypocrite. So articulate to me why you believe that.
I believe the word I used there was fraud.
You earlier used hypocrite.
Did I earlier? Okay, I don't remember saying it, but I'll take your word for it. And to some degree, I believe it. Look, I think that in hosting a show uncensored, and I can't see you, but I know you put up the very festive holly leaf on the globe there. It is incumbent upon you. You will say, I believe in the concept of free speech. Now, I'll be very clear in my definition of free speech. It's the constitutional definition of freedom of speech. All speech is permissible outside of a crime, and we have very clear parameters, and these have been affirmed by the Supreme Court, as to what that is. That's a proactive call.
But we're not talking about the law here. We're not talking about the government coming in and saying Alex Jones can't be on Twitter.com. Alex Jones is not allowed on Facebook. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a private institution saying that because your main presence on the platform is to spread misinformation that we're not good at catching, and some of that misinformation has led to the families of school shooting victims being harassed, we don't want to host you on the platform. Either because you scare off advertisers, or because, quite frankly, we think you make the platform a worse place and you have a negative impact. There's a difference here between constitutional law and the decisions of a private business as to what they will and will not host. For example, if I was to make a social media website, if people were going around calling people the N-word or like throwing slurs at like people who were minorities on my platform, I'd be like, yeah, I'd probably wipe that. Not because I hate the freedom of expression or I don't think they're making a good argument. I think they're making the platform a worse place, and I would rather not spread racism and have my platform be used to spread that.
All for violence. The crime is not the speech. The crime is the action causing violence on purpose.
That doesn't mean I'm not necessarily against there ever being a place where any and all types of speech, including some of the most vitriolic speech, is allowed. I'm not saying that. Some platforms are better, like just being like the Wild West, right? I wouldn't, like, you can't make 4chan like moderate. If you were to completely wipe it of all of that, it wouldn't be 4chan anymore. It wouldn't be the Wild West. It takes a lot of the appeal out of it. But when you're talking about like these large social media platforms that go to hundreds of millions to billions of people, yeah, it's going to make sense for them to want to put some regulations on the type of content that Aunt Martha sees while trying to look at, her, family photos that have been posted or whatever is posted on social media.
Outside of that, everything is permissible. But for a show uncensored, and I know that you said there's a difference between across the pond there and obviously in the United States, we have a First Amendment that you don't. How would you define freedom of speech?
Well, I don't think we're as far apart as you think. I mean, you talk about the First Amendment not protecting, for example, crime. It's a little bit more complicated. For example, it doesn't protect you if you deliberately defame somebody. And my argument about Alex Jones in particular was that he's just been punished with over $1 billion fine in one of the biggest defamation cases in modern American history.
God, man. Can I be honest? Again, I don't like taking pleasure in the misfortune of others. But man, whoa. If there's anything that could have clearly put the words "I am a liar" on Alex Jones's forehead, it is being known in history for losing the biggest defamation case ever. $1 billion. What was $1 billion?
For deliberately telling lies about the families of the poor victims of the Sandy Hook massacre over a sustained period of time, which led to them getting direct harassment and other criminal activity. So I was joining all the dots there of his particular situation, and I concurred with Elon Musk's original view when he was asked about it when he first bought Twitter last year, which was he was not going to allow him back on. He's now changed his...
What's with the faces that Steven Crowder is making right now? What is going up with him? Is he tweaking? I'm sorry. Let's continue.
Activity. So I
don't know what he's going. I'm sorry. Continuing.
Joining all the dots there of his particular situation, and I concurred with Elon Musk's original view when he was asked about it when he first bought Twitter last year, which was he was not going to allow him back on. He's now changed his mind, but my opinion was based on the Constitution of the United States not protecting you if you are guilty of defamation.
Well, okay, so I'm going to have to take the rounds out of that magazine from how loaded that question was and so much misinformation there. And that's the beauty of the freedom of speech. You can say that, you can speak misinformation, and you have the right to, for example, saying he knowingly lied. Look, I'm not in the business of defending everything that Alex Jones has said, okay? But if you're going to say that...
Okay, so he legitimately believed that shooting was fake, and he had evidence of it pointing in that direction. Because I looked at the evidence he presents and it's all bullshit. For example, he showed, hey, look, there's a picture of this child in India that died. That's the same picture as this kid. It was a mistake made by the organizers of a different tragedy, of some like earthquake, some natural disaster that happened over there. That's the evidence he was presenting. It was either him manipulating evidence in order to make it look like he had proof that the Sandy Hook massacre was fake, or he is the dumbest person in the world when he has in the past admitted, while fighting over his children's over his custody rights for his kids, that he is playing a character on TV to entertain people. I mean, like, come on.
22 minutes out of 8,000 hours of broadcast time, for which he apologized, acknowledged that he was wrong, constitutes what you are saying is...
Saying that he acknowledges he was wrong does not mean he didn't engage in defamation. In fact, if anything, it's acknowledging that he did something that could be considered defamation, in my opinion.
Proactively lying. That is a very dangerous precedent.
But he did.
It's not accurate.
Hang on, Stephen.
It's not accurate.
Stephen, he did deliberately lie. for a sustained period of time, for years, about these families. He knew Sandy
Tell me how he
Hook.
deliberately lied.
He knew that.
Tell me how he deliberately lied.
deliberately lied. And he was found to have deliberately lied.
Tell me how he deliberately lied.
And by the way, in his defense, he
Tell
tried...
me how he deliberately lied, please.
In his defense, he tried to play the First Amendment card, and it was rejected by the judge. Rejected.
Tell me how he deliberately lied, please.
Because he knew that it wasn't a hoax. He knew the massacre had happened.
Incorrect.
Let's listen to what he said.
That's incorrect.
Let's play what he said.
Hook, it's got inside job written all over it. Sandy Hook is a synthetic, completely fake, with actors, in my view, manufactured. I couldn't believe it at first. People just instinctively know that there's a lot of fraud going on. But it took me about a year with Sandy Hook to come to grips with the fact that the whole thing was fake.
A year, man. He was keeping this up for a year. Oh my God. I didn't know it was that long, actually. I didn't know it was that long. I must have I don't know how I missed that. I didn't know he was keeping it up for that long. I thought like after 6 months, eventually he'd throw in the towel. No, he was chugging along the Sandy Hook is fake train for a bit.
Whole thing was fake, repeatedly. A series of different shows he did.
You still haven't answered. You still haven't answered. That doesn't prove that he knowingly lied anything. Look, Alex Jones is wrong
Stephen,
about a lot.
You're a very
Alex
smart.
Jones is wrong about a lot.
Stephen, you and I disagree.
But he's also
Stephen, you and I disagree. Hang on.
Believed it, and
I'm
then
going to respond to
wrong.
you. You and I disagree about many things. We agree about many too, right? But on this point, you're a very smart guy. I wouldn't question that for a moment. You and I both know Alex Jones knew that was not faked, Sandy Hook. You and I both know that.
What the fuck was
I
that?
just put the words out that you just tried to place in my mouth. I do not know that. I don't agree with the premise, and you have yet to prove it. Here's the beauty, though.
I don't have to prove it.
Even if you were
The
to
court
commit
proved
defamation, even if no, it didn't, and even
it did.
What evidence did he have that pointed him toward that conclusion for a year? When I mean, come on, the physical evidence for Sandy Hook was overwhelming. The photographs, the video, everything was overwhelming, and he kept it up for a year as more and more evidence hit the deck. What's more likely here? That for years, after admitting that he's doing a character on these shows, that he continued to believe the same lie that had no evidence for it, sustained on nothing, or that he was using it for attention to make money?
They found him guilty of defamation
with your audience, and I'm not going to continue speaking as though we're having a dialogue. Even assuming that you don't discuss the caps that he would never pay out, the far lower settlement that they have decided they would allow, considering this will go to a superior court and will get thrown out, even if you allow all of those things. Here's the beauty of the First Amendment. Here's the beauty of the First Amendment. Even if you at one point commit defamation, you still don't forfeit your right to speak going forward. You don't lose a fundamental human right.
I agree.
And that's not why he was banned from. That's not why he was banned from Twitter.
I know
that.
He was banned from Twitter. He was banned from Twitter for having a pop at some guy from CNN. I don't care about that. I'm more interested in why Elon Musk tweeted when he bought Twitter and was asked, will you bring back Alex Jones? He said, no, I won't allow somebody back on, having gone through the pain himself of a child dying in his own arms, one of his children. He wasn't going to allow someone who profited from the pain of dead children to be back on the platform. He then changed his mind, which he's allowed to do. He owns the platform. X is a private company owned by Elon Musk. He can do what he likes with it. But they also have a series of rules which are available on their website, which you can check about what is allowed and not allowed. And they will deplatform you.
By the way, one of the things he instituted around that time, because of all the flack he was getting as the advertisers were fleeing because they saw the writing on the wall, was if you deny a historical tragedy, for example, something like 9/11 was fake, like a historical tragedy is how it was defined, that can get you knocked off the platform. I never see stuff like that implemented. I see people denying the Holocaust. I see people denying 9/11. I see people denying like well-defined, well-proven historical tragedies all the time on the platform. Hey, active war crimes that are going on right now. Remember Bucha? That was denied all over the platform. Who got banned for that? It felt like he just kind of threw out rules that just never were enforced.
If you transgress those rules. And my point to you is that the situation with Alex Jones is that he was found guilty in an American court of defamation. And yes, it's entirely down to Elon Musk that he can bring him back. But I agree with the first version of Elon Musk's decision-making, not the second one based on a completely undemocratic poll he put on his own Twitter feed.
Well, I agree with you that it shouldn't be left to a Democratic poll because the First Amendment is not subject to a vote.
Right. But you accept the First Amendment of the US Constitution has a number of things which are excluded from protection, whether it's child pornography, fraud, defamation. There's a whole list of things which you'll simply...
But that has nothing to do with speech.
No, but you're conflating...
sorry, Piers.
But I think you've mischaracterised what I said then, because I've never said he hasn't got a right to say what he wants. He can say what he likes. I believe fundamentally in anyone's right to say whatever they want. The question is accountability. And the US Constitution, which you don't think I know anything about, but actually I know a lot about, and I'm a huge...
I didn't say you don't know anything about it. I really don't believe that. I know that you have studied it.
From that same show you did, you basically said, I don't know much about the US Constitution because I'm not American. And that's fine. But I have lived and worked in America for 20 years. I have tried to really get a handle on the US Constitution. And on the issue of the First Amendment, it is a complicated thing. It's not as simple as saying you can say whatever you want. Well, it is, because it doesn't allow the unfettered free speech, but with protection. You're suggesting it does.
It absolutely does.
It doesn't.
It absolutely does, barring, would you like me to explain, barring what I've already outlined? Actual criminal behavior calling for violence against other people. For example, Pierce, look,
but
you know that
defamation.
you have been, and I'm saying this in your defense. For example, you made your joke about being a two-spirited penguin, right? I thought it was cute. I think it was funny, and I understand the point that you were trying to make, okay? You have had people accuse you of creating violence against trans. You know that, and we know it's absurd. So who defines what is actually calling for violence, or if you
but here's
basically in a roundabout way maybe causing violence? No, unless you called for violence.
No, but you keep saying that
you were a two-spirited penguin.
You keep saying that your only barrier on free speech is crime.
Yes.
And I keep reminding you that Alex Jones was found guilty of defamation, and that is one of the things that's not protected by the First Amendment.
No. It's not protected in you can have civil damages, and your First Amendment rights don't cease to exist. In other words, you can pay. You can pay the piper for what you have done in that
still being
individual
held
instance.
accountable.
So if someone at some point, if
Steven's not wrong here. Hypothetically, if Alex Jones wanted to, he could pay and keep lying and then pay them again if he wanted to. He wouldn't be put in prison for it. But I mean, the fines would keep increasing, the penalties would keep increasing, his life would be ruined. But it wouldn't come with legal consequences. But I don't even know why this is the specific thing that's being debated, because I thought we were debating Twitter, not whether or not, he's going to prison for saying words about the Sandy Hook families. It was about whether or not he should be let back allowed on the platform. And I didn't know that it had to have some guilty verdict in order to get banned on the internet.
Someone accuses you of defamation, and let's say has a suit levied against you that actually, by God, is successful. Let's say does that forbid you from speaking publicly thereafter?
No,
you don't lose it. It's a fundamental human right.
Not at all. But it does allow, I'm exercising my rights to free speech to say I think he shouldn't be allowed back on X, which was the position of the owner of X until last week. So my point is that Elon Musk has made two judgment calls about this. One I agreed with and one I didn't. And I'm exercising my free speech rights to say I don't agree with it.
You are. And I completely support your right to that. The problem is Elon Musk.
I love how everybody's patting each other on the back. You have a right to say that. No, you have a right to say that. It's so cute.
Changed his mind in the face of new information. And if we want to have productive dialogues, we need to, you know what? This is one thing I often ask. And by the way, I think that none of this is a gotcha for Twitter clicks. I hope to God it's not. How often when you were on CNN, or how often when you were on your morning show there in the UK, or how often do you see on any news network someone say, you know what? New information came out and I was wrong. And I say that because you've done it, and I appreciate it. You said, you know what, if I knew what I know now about the COVID vaccine, specifically that if you get the COVID vaccine, you cannot transmit it. If I knew that was incorrect, I wouldn't have espoused the views that I did. I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think the problem that we have in today's society is not wanting to allow...
Vaccine still makes it harder to spread COVID. Vaccine still makes it so that it's more survivable if you catch it. Still a lot of benefits to it.
People to be wrong, to make mistakes. In the realm of comedy, look, good jokes and bad jokes come from the same place. Sometimes you have to risk something and it's not funny.
I agree
Sometimes
with you
have
about
to
all
express
that.
an opinion.
Yeah, but I agree with you about all that.
Sure.
I agree with that. I tell you, that's really the bedrock of this show. But I come back again to why I had a particular issue with the Alex Jones thing, is that unlike the other circumstances you're describing, in his case, he was found guilty of a serious defamation against the Sandy Hook families. He was fined over $1 billion. So far, he's not paid a dime of that money. And, you know, Elon Musk has made 2 calls on him. Like I said, the first one I agreed with. I don't think that people like Alex Jones should be allowed an unchallenged, unfettered public platform to spew lies which are done deliberately, in my estimation, to spew lies.
Unchallenged? Are you out of your tree, sir?
Unchallenged.
It's a cesspool.
No.
Anyone can say anything they
People
like.
can reply to him, but no one can have a direct challenge to Alex Jones, like I did when he came on my show.
Of course I can.
Look, like you picked out, for example, that he came on my show, Jeremy Corbyn, Taliban spokesman, and so on. Yes, because in each of those cases, I put them through the mincer, right? And I'm prepared to have them on to give them a hard time and challenge them. You might agree or disagree with that, but they're all pretty volatile interviews. But I was able to challenge what I perceive to be their untruths. Right? I'll show you a clip of the Corbyn one to show you what I mean. Have a look at this.
You seem to be
Hang on,
over-concerned with
anti-Semitism.
No, I did not.
I am. Should Hamas stay in power? It's actually
Are you done yet?
It's actually a critical question.
Are you done yet?
It's a critical question.
Are you done yet?
No, it's the question.
Are you done yet?
Should they stay in power?
Are you done yet?
This country says they're a terror group. Do you agree? And should they stay in power?
Listen, I do not approve, support, or welcome Hamas.
Are you prepared to call Hamas a terror group?
Is it possible to have a rational discussion with you? Is it possible? Come on.
Hey, why was Drew muted? What did Drew do?
Answer that question.
You can't, can you?
Answer it.
No, it's my show. You answer my question. Now, the point of playing that clip, other than to entertain you, as I'm sure it did, is that, yes...
I hate that clip. I hate everything about that clip.
Why do you hate it?
I hate it because I don't like Jeremy Corbyn, but I think he's a bombastic prick, but I also think that you should have let him finish speaking. Why? Because then he would express bad ideas.
Okay, we'll put it that way if you want to. But I remember watching the Piers Morgan Jeremy Corbyn interview, and Jeremy Corbyn could have just let him finish his statement and then repeated the question again if he wanted to. But he didn't let him finish his statement. So he just looked at as bombastic and jumping down. It just looked like he was like incredibly bombastic and jumping down Jeremy's throat the entire time. And honestly, I think it saved Jeremy's case a little bit there. Because I don't know if he really just like let him finish what he was going to say in response. So if anything, like at a certain point, the aggression can actually help the other person that you're trying to, get, which is what it felt like Piers was trying to do.
Actually, in the end, I could tell very quickly he was never going to give an answer, and therefore we were in a game of cat and mouse, which went on so long that the viewer was left in no uncertain terms what his answer actually was. Because otherwise you just say Hamas are a terror group. It's not difficult. And in fact, 2 days later, he admitted Hamas are a terror group. That was his position. But only after I shamed him into doing it. So look, here's my question for you.
So that's it. So you want to shame people into agreeing with you? I would rather just let them speak if they have bad ideas.
Not at all. I want to shame them into giving an honest opinion. What I will really lose my rag about.
Shame is a really good way of converting an opinion, though. People, you do need to shame people if they say something really, really stupid. That is the marketplace of ideas working as intended. You say something dumb, you get laughed out of the room, we don't hear the dumb idea again.
And I'm sure you must be the same. When people just obfuscate and don't give a straight answer to a straight, simple question, then I will go after them. If they give an honest answer, even if I don't agree with it, I respect that. And in fact, I think people who watch my show regularly will see that is my position, whether I agree with them or not. I have lots of people on I don't really agree with. But I find the ones that I have respect for are the ones who give a straight answer to a straight question. So let me ask you a straight question. Let me ask you a straight question.
Sure.
David Duke, the former KKK leader, he's banned from Twitter. Elon Musk hasn't brought him back. Right. Should he be allowed?
Oh my Lord! What was that? I don't know. That's a difficult question? Is that a hard question?
Be back on X.
Throw that at me. Really? You just say, I want to ask someone a straight question. You have me here. I'm basically a specter. I don't appear on anyone. You want to ask me about David Duke?
Yes. Because he's banned from Twitter.
Should David Duke be allowed back on X?
Yes.
I'm not as familiar with David Duke as I am with Alex, which is why I was able to point out that you cannot prove that he knowingly lied about anything. If David Duke has called for the violence, look, if David Duke has called for the violence actions of violence against minority groups, then no. If David Duke has espoused horrible points of view that can be refuted, by the way, not only by other people who are on X, but by the community notes on X, and on a platform where people are free to speak on both sides of the aisle, then yes. It doesn't mean that I think he's anything other.
And of course, leaving this up, I haven't done the research, if David Duke is a racist.
Then a racist prick.
So I'm trying to work out whether
Can I make one point?
Yeah.
Can I make one point that I think is this is really, and hopefully we can agree on this, because I actually disagree with you that Elon Musk can do whatever he wants with his own platform. It comes down to this. I think, and if you look at the historical record, I think it is far more dangerous for society to engage in a culture of censorship, of viewpoint discrimination, than it is to allow people to speak freely, barring the committing of violent crimes. I think that we see a far worse dystopia in our future if we...
I mean, private businesses will discriminate against certain viewpoints because they're just so grotesque that they're not allowed. And that's the question. Is Alex Jones's views so grotesque that they're not allowed on social media? Not banned by law, but we don't want to see them while we're scrolling or get grandma confused about a natural disaster that Alex Jones has some theories about.
Allow the government and these big tech platforms to determine who can speak and who cannot. And we've seen some very clear examples of this. If you give me 30 seconds, let me lay this out for you. For example, I don't think they have the right to, for example, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Here's why. They benefit from Section 230. Now, I know you have a lot of fans in the UK. They may not be familiar with this. Let me explain what it means. They're basically treated like public utilities, meaning that they have immunity from liability for someone saying something on their platform. For example, AT&T here in the States can't ban you from their phone service because your racist Aunt Tilly drops an N-bomb after a few drinks at Thanksgiving. They're a public utility. These big tech platforms are treated as platforms where they are not legally liable for what is permitted. But that allows them to engage in viewpoint discrimination. And then there is no accountability. For example, the Hunter Biden laptop story, which we know, and this is why I make all references publicly available, because I want to be held to account, and I will be held to account, would have changed the election.
We do not know that. Oh my God, I thought it was going to be, we know that the Hunter Biden laptop story was not allowed to spread on Twitter, but no, it would have changed the election results. You don't know that. That's pure speculation. Here's a question, guys. If you would have found, if we would have known more about Joe Biden's son smoking crack and being a sex hound and seen more pictures of his cock, would that have changed the results of the election? Yes, but I don't know by how much more Joe Biden could win.
The government was not, and when I say colluding, I mean Joe Biden, Jen Psaki, Kamala Harris, Karen Jean-Pierre calling for the removal of Joe Rogan from Spotify, calling for the removal of vaccine scientists, by the way, of mRNA vaccine scientists from public platforms. If all information was allowed to be transmitted freely, like the platforms, as they are treated under our legal precedent here and Section 230, guess what? Donald Trump would be president. I'm saying this as a matter of record and fact. Millions of people would not have gotten the mRNA.
He's saying this as a matter of fact. You can't say it as a matter of fact because it's a prediction. It's a prediction about a way history didn't go, about something you don't know. We have no, for example, people know a lot more about Hunter Biden now. What if Joe Biden still wins then? Then have we proven your theory wrong? That knowledge of Hunter Biden would have changed the results of the election? The Republicans have had 3 years and a year and a half since ridding the House of committee hearings and investigations. Hunter Biden has offered to bring himself before Congress and testify in front of the public where they can bring out pictures of his dick and go, look, everyone, look, he smokes crack. They could have done that. And they didn't. Maybe they were scared of this higher educated man not smoking crack while in the meeting and coming off halfway decent. Maybe they're scared that they don't have any evidence to present, which they still have yet to present, with Lindsey Graham and other Republican officials openly saying, if there was a smoking gun, we would have found it, implying that there isn't one. So I don't know if all this information was available to the American public in 2020, if that would have substantially changed the results of the election, let alone enough to make Donald Trump a president for a second term.
vaccine, specifically men under 30, and lockdowns would have lasted days, weeks, not years. That is irrefutable, but you had the government and these platforms deciding which views were...
By the way, again, that's not true. Ron DeSantis, of all people, was in favor of lockdowns in Florida.
allowed and which views weren't. And I don't think I should be allowed. You should be allowed. And certainly not the government colluding with 5 companies who control over 90% of the information in the digital sphere. It is terrifying to me.
You
may think I'm an absolutist. I think I'm reasonable.
No, I don't. I actually don't think that's unreasonable at all. In fact, I have written numerous columns about the outrage of the New York Post having that initial expose of Hunter Biden's laptop censored by Twitter, as it was then, for 2 weeks right before the 2020 election. You know, I've said to Donald Trump to his face, never mind the stolen election bullshit you keep trying to pretend.
I mean, at this point, then I can just be like, well, maybe if the FBI didn't reopen the thing in Hillary's emails, maybe she would have won, and then rightfully Roe versus Wade wouldn't have gotten overturned, and rightfully we would have gotten more aid to the... Like, come on. It's all... You're all guesstimating and estimating. This is the problem with alternative history. This is why the alternative history YouTube channels should be seen as nothing more than just like fun fan fiction.
Happened. I said, focus on that, because that probably swung the election, because it stopped the media investigating properly what was going on with Hunter Biden in Ukraine and what his father's involvement would be. I think that could have swung the election. So I absolutely agree with you.
Wow, and they've had 1.5 years to investigate it after taking over the House once again, and they've had since Joe Biden was elected, so about 3 years of time to look around, investigate, find evidence. Hell, they were doing that during the election as well. And where is it? Where is this election result changing evidence? Is it just the vibes? Is it just the vibes? Maybe the vibes can change elections. That is true.
Let me give you a funny story about it. And not only could it, it would have, according to Dr. Epstein. Do you realize? Now, I'm a comedian, right? This show, that's why I appreciate you said, hey, you got to chuckle from our segment. Some of it is tongue in cheek. And I appreciate that you recognize that and not try and use, you acknowledge that it's a joke, whether it's funny or not. So as a comedian, the host of a comedy show, Rudy Giuliani was on this show. And the first time the public ever saw Hunter Biden's laptop was on this show. He brought it up. He goes, I have the laptop here. The FBI came, they searched my offices. They took everything but the laptop. I go, wait. Is that the Hunter Biden laptop? He said, yes. Episode is banned. Suspended from YouTube. Think about that. Think about how terrifying that is. It was an accident.
Yeah, Joe Biden did that. Joe Biden called up YouTube. He was like, ban it. No, they're going to see my nuts on penis. No. They called up the Steven Crowder show and they made him take it down. But no, yeah, YouTube will take down your stuff for literally nothing. I've been demonetized for like 4 months over harassment that they still can't define, and it's extremely frustrating. I think it was probably just channel getting picked up by the auto mod, just getting confused by some keywords or something. I don't know, man. So yeah, man, that sucks. But I don't think Joe Biden did that, and I don't think it was a grand plot.
It's wrong. It's wrong. Let me ask you, though, yesterday on your show, you appeared wearing a T-shirt saying Alex Jones was right, changed my mind. So my question is, what was he right about?
Oh, gosh, how much time do you have?
And see, this is the I hate this theory. I've talked about this before on the show. We've been talking about Alex Jones a lot on the show. Alex Jones will make 1 million predictions, get 2 right, and then everybody says Alex Jones is right about everything. If you make predictions about literally everything, some of them will come true. I know nothing about hockey. If you put me in front of a matchup of all the teams that are going to play hockey matches, and I make predictions on every one, and then I only highlight the instances where I got it right, I can make myself look like a hockey expert. And that's what Alex Jones does. He made predictions, for example, for there to be a war in 2022. And so when it happened, when there was a war in 2022, everyone was like, oh my God, Alex Jones is right. What he edits out, and this is what they edited out when trying to show this evidence in Tucker Carlson, is that he predicted a war between America, China over Taiwan in 2022, which didn't happen. What we got instead was a war between Ukraine and Russia. But that part is edited out and not included. And that's how Alex Jones has built up this reputation of always being right about these situations. It's they're either misconstruing what he originally said, or he shoots out enough like predictions to get it vaguely right because he's just firing out constantly. Like if I fire 5 shots and I get 4 out of 5, I would be happy with myself. But Alex Jones will shoot out 1 million shots, get 20 out of 1 million. And then he's got more, and he highlights those, and wow, look at that. He's great at making predictions. No, he isn't. If you would have watched his show, you would have predicted America's collapse, who knows, dozens of times by now.
Well, are you talking about Sandy Hook?
No, I'm not talking about Sandy Hook. He said he was wrong about Sandy Hook.
Right.
He apologized for Sandy Hook.
When he was sued, he said he was
Eventually, but I'm saying obviously the shirt wouldn't be addressing that. If it's he says I was wrong, it would be awfully daft to
But what are you
right
alluding to then?
I'm alluding to, for crying out loud, if you talk about intelligence agencies spying on Americans.
He wasn't the only person saying that, and that was well known that the intelligence agency does spy on Americans. This has been known for and been reported on by tons of different reporters for decades.
If you talk about what we've done with South American countries,
that was reported on by many other people before Alex Jones. Oh my God.
Allowing the spread of STDs, for which Hillary Clinton apologized for. If you talk about nation building, where there have been underhanded deals with
underhanded deals in nation building, he broke that story. What are you talking about?
Nations who don't have our best interests at heart. I mean, it's, take your pick. I don't believe that, for example, George W. Bush was next to the Twin Towers with an Acme plunger. No, I'm not that kind of a conspiracy theorist. But when Alex Jones said, look, you are going to be corralled into social media ghettos and lose your right to speak, he was right. He's right about a lot. And I will say this.
But he was unbanned. You can't be, you're in a social media ghetto. You won't be able to speak. You won't be able to do this. You won't be able to do that. And he's currently getting unbanned on Twitter. So he was wrong.
He's been wrong about plenty. I am not here to defend everything that Alex Jones has ever said. I'm willing to defend everything that I have said on my program. But that man is exactly who you would expect him to be. He's a friend of mine. And when everyone else talks...
Why not concentrate on the FEMA camp predictions or any of those things? Why not? Why concentrate on the super uber vague stuff that other people said better than him before him?
Tail, and they ran. I'm not going to do that. I'll tell him he's wrong. I'll tell you where I think he's wrong. But that man has a right to speak, just like I believe you have the right to speak. And Pierce, if you think they're not going to come for you, oh my word, do you have another thing coming? And I hope that you don't. I genuinely hope that you don't. Well, I mean, I've had people say that I was a hate speaker because I said soccer was gay. I do. I think so.
You think soccer's gay?
Homosexual, yes.
You know what? That's a whole other debate, Steven Crowder. Let's have a debate about whether soccer is gay. And if it is, by the way, I would be happy to embrace its homosexual side.
Well, I know you would. I know you would. But with that accent, you have to be careful. People take you seriously. I think it's great. I think it's great if you're a 6-year-old girl or a homosexual from Greece, to quote Nick DiPaolo.
Yeah, you know the difference in our football and your football? We don't wear helmets to protect ourselves. We're real men over here.
You also don't allow contact.
We're real men over here. It's
God damn it, Steven's winning at the end. This is a W for Steven. He's not too wrong here.
There's no great
not
padding
too wrong here,
or,
actually.
Great shoulder pads and helmets. We just get stuck into each other. And that's the difference.
Soccer has contact? Yeah, I've seen contact in soccer. Yeah, I've seen that a few times. Yeah, I've seen contact in soccer, or contact considered.
And Academy Awards.
You like to wear helmets and carry guns. We just use these guns. But that's a whole other debate as well. Steven Crowder, got to leave it there. It's been a good debate. I've actually enjoyed the tone of this debate. I think it's a really interesting area.
Soccer players usually don't wind up with brain damage. If you don't get brain damage, then it's not a manly sport.
Free speech. I think ultimately we agree about more things with free speech than we disagree. But let's keep the debate going. Thank you for joining me.
Merry Christmas, Pierce. I appreciate it.
Angie, all the best.
Okay, enough of that. Aye, aye, aye.